Trafficking Victims Protection Act, you can make kind of a simple chart. The law is many, many pages, but for everyday people, we can look at an action, and the action might include recruiting or harboring or transporting, although you don't have to take someone across a border or even across a street. Those are the aspects, the actions that start the ball rolling to commit this crime. Then there's a means, and the three basic means are force, fraud, or coercion. So someone might actually kidnap someone to sell them as a slave. Fraud might include offering someone a job that doesn't exist, or trying to recruit young girls on social media by telling them, I'm going to make you a model, I'm going to make you a star. So fraud becomes an element of trafficking. And then coercion is like the invisible chain. So many times I get frustrated with how many times in media there are pictures of people with chains on and handcuffs and ropes. But the real method of control is coercion. They threaten you when you don't care about yourself anymore. They threaten your loved ones, and that threat becomes a way to control you. If you can imagine if a young girl is lured to a party and they put something in her drink, and then they take pictures of 4 or 5 men raping her. And then in the morning they show her those pictures and they say, we're going to send this to your dad unless you do this. That becomes the coercion that then controls her. They don't need locks on the door. They don't need handcuffs. They don't need ropes. Force, fraud, or coercion. What is the purpose? And the purpose, if it's for a commercial sex act or if it's for forced labor, for slavery, then that's the definition of human trafficking. And I really like to point out that this is about making money. It's about not having to pay for the labor for your product. So then you have an advantage in the commercial market to sell more of your product and make more money because your overhead is lower. And in the area of commercial sex act, someone is doing this to make money. It's not about the sex. It's not about the perversion. It's about greed, and the purpose is a business. Commercial is a business word. It's the design is to make money.
El Salvador passed, I believe it was in 2015, in English would be special law against trafficking in persons that does define trafficking fairly consistent with international law in regards to the force, fraud, and coercion. But it is a little different in that the Salvadoran law more treats those as kind of aggravating factors, not necessarily defining factors. So in El Salvador, the law, any child under the age of 18 engaged in commercial sex is automatically considered to be a victim of human trafficking, and they'll prosecute as such. They've done, I believe El Salvador has the highest prosecution rate in all of Central America for offenders, specifically for child sex trafficking. Since enacting the law, they've had anywhere between like 8 up to I think as high as 25, 26 cases that they've prosecuted each year. They have focused primarily on sex trafficking, like I mentioned. With some, they're starting to focus a little more on labor trafficking cases as well.